This is Fabled Charisma, and today we are reading some Reddit stories about some Dungeons and Dragons situations. Specifically, Am I the Asshole? Reddit stories. Today we have our first Reddit story brought to us by Preston. Preston, if you want to bring us on into what's going on in this one.
Yeah. All right, so this one is, am I the asshole for not being more willing to go off book? Hi, all. I've got a sometimes player I've been talking to for the last couple days. He's raised a point that in the past when he's tried to go off the rails or circumnavigate an obvious plot point, I've sort of stonewalled him. While it hasn't been quite that, I have been guilty of not really feeding that particular wolf. My point to him was this. I typically run linked pre-built modules. Some of them are sandboxy and have a lot of degree of freedom, but others require things to be done in a fairly reasonable order. While I don't mind a generated encounter or some flavor to something there, completely derailing something and forcing me to write something new or wing the whole session off the fly because you could defeat the purpose of running pre-built and put extra stress and work on me. He told me I was whining and making excuses. So what do you think? Am I a jerk for not wanting story stick style games, or do you, within reason of course, try to stick to modules and key points? Examples include literally walking away from dungeons, killing key allies and NPCs, spending several minutes up to an hour trying to get me to invent a story or clue for a random object.
So essentially this player wants this guy to take a module, which those who aren't familiar with modules is like a pre-planned campaign that the DM is given, and they kind of have to pilot this pre-planned campaign. Not a whole lot of room for freedom in modules.
Not sponsored.
But yeah, not sponsored.
is a module that does have an outline, but this one is one of your more freedom ones. Unlike there's one called the Tower of the Mad Mage. That one is structured. Basically, it's just a giant dungeon crawl through this tower.
But some are specifically campaign-based, where you have to follow certain plot points, you have to follow certain people. And some DMs, they try to follow to a T, but then some players will throw wrenches in because they don't have the module in their hands. They don't see, what's happening. So I feel like if you're going to run a campaign, module or not module, you have to have some preparation in mind for if something goes off book and how to get it back to on book. But it's also like a give and take, because just because you're a player doesn't mean you can abuse your DM. Like, what's their name? What's their hometown? What's their cousin's middle name? What's the name of the coffee they're drinking? That's,
What's their favorite color?
But yeah, that's...
I feel like the DM's not an asshole because he did let him know, this is what we're running. Now, that should have been established when the table was made for that certain group to let them know, we are running a pre-built. Now, I can homebrew some things, but I want to stick to the book because I want to tell this story. And if the player at that point agrees, that's on them. If they're like, I don't like this anymore, then you can go. You don't have to stick around. Don't make it harder for everyone else, because at that point, you're not making it fun for everybody else to be playing.
Yeah. And if you're not having fun, why are you there? That's obviously not the D&D you want to play. That's okay. Find the people that want to play the D&D that you want to play. Maybe these people just aren't it. Yeah. Or, alternatively, suck it up.
Embrace the suck and move on.
Yeah. Maybe just have an open mind and try something new.
Yeah. I don't think the DM's the asshole in this situation. It's a module. Everybody at the table should know what a module is and should know that you kind of have to give the DM a little extra, because they're following a plot that they don't really have a lot of control over.
Yeah.
But yeah, our next story is, am I the asshole for blowing up at my husband because he counted his work on our D&D game as one of his chores? So, I, 35 female, and my husband, 35 male, have been together for 10 years. Blissfully happy, no notes. Over COVID, we got into Dungeons and Dragons. We have a weekly game that runs from 3 to 4 hours with 3 other friends. 5 of us have been going on adventures for the past 5 years, or few years, meeting consistently over Zoom. I have been having a great time overall. My husband is the DM, which means he does a lot of work preparing the sessions. This includes coming up with the characters we are going to have the conversations with, figuring out the battles we are going to fight, and so on. I really appreciate his work. On the other hand, I've been feeling like I'm doing more chores in our partnership. I cook a lot, clean the kitchen, help with the laundry, do most of the driving. We tried splitting chores before. There was a period where he would fold laundry or do cleaning while I cooked, but it didn't last beyond a week or two. I normally don't particularly mind, but life has been especially shit lately due to his health issues in the family, and I think it put extra stress on us. So the other day I cooked dinner. During dinner, he was giving me a sneak peek of the magical items he made for the blacksmith in the new town. And I guess I didn't look as excited as he asked me why. I said, I'll be excited when you clean up the kitchen after we are done eating. This started a major argument, and we really don't have many of those, so it was a bit intense, about how I don't appreciate his work on the campaign. I countered by saying he's free to work on his hobbies as much as he wants, but it's not the same thing as helping me with chores. To this, he countered that his work on the D&D campaign counts as a chore, just like cooking and cleaning. He said he provides a space for hanging out with our friends every week. In a way, he's organizing and scheduling our social life, and that it takes a lot of work. I thought this was absolutely bonkers for a perspective. This is where things escalated because I was sort of befuddled. I still am. And he got really hurt. He did say, the fact that you're asking this shows you don't understand how much work I put into this campaign. For the record, I did run a leg of the campaign as a DM for a few weeks, and it was a lot of work. But it was a hobby, at least to me. It was a fun thing I elected to do, not something I needed to do, like a chore. He pointed out that I don't need to cook either. We can afford to eat out every night and hire a cleaning service for sorting out the apartment. And he's not wrong, we can afford it, but it still felt weird. That's a flex, wow. I eventually let it go. But I feel like I am going to need some sort of resolution to this because I can feel the resentment bubbling in my chest. I don't want to win an argument. I am looking for vindication. But can someone give me an insight into this conflict? Am I wrong? Am I being the asshole here? Thank you.
Zooey mama, that's crazy. If somebody looked at me and they said, I have to do D&D, so you have to do laundry.
Yeah.
Like, I have to invest in our hobbies, so
If
you have
it's
to
a
clean our
chore,
whole
it's
house.
not a hobby. Like, you
Yeah, I don't-
shouldn't be
Good
looking
point.
at the things you do for fun as a chore. Like, that's not the point of them. And if you do look at it that way, you should seriously reconsider what you're doing for fun.
Agreed.
'Cause I'm sure she's not on the side like, oh, I scrub the floors in my free time because it really
Yeah.
helps me.
Because
chill
that's
out.
actually what I love doing. No one wants to clean. That's like a completely separate thing than D&D.
Mhm.
D&D is like something you do for fun, as like a hobby. No one's forcing you to do it. Your personal hygiene isn't going to be worse if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like doing
may
your
be worse if you
dishes,
do.
like you got to do that. That's just a thing you got to do.
Yeah.
As
I
a
would
married
also...
individual. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good. I disagree. Not the asshole. Because
Not the asshole.
it's chores, dude. Dungeons and Dragons, like you guys said, it's pretty
You're an
plain cut and
adult.
dry. You're an adult. D&D, going out with your friends and organizing social events is not in the spectrum of things you have to do. You don't have to go out with your friends and have social experience to survive. A clean household, bodily health, food on your plate are things you have to do to essentially survive. So his entire perspective on the situation, in my opinion, is wrong, and she is not the asshole.
Yeah,
Definitely
time
very
management
bad
on
for
his
her.
end was just shit. That's all. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
DMing
agreed.
does take a lot, but you do your chores beforehand.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
playing tennis takes a lot. Doesn't mean you get to come home and say, I just did chores because I went out and played tennis. Like, no. dude.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
hobby takes work. It takes work. And part of D&D and being a DM is the preparation and the planning. That's a part of the work.
Absolutely.
Like, what a strange excuse to be a bad partner. you know?
Yeah.
That's-
It's like someone's.
Seriously.
There's so many different ways you could dissect that. You could say like someone who likes to, I don't know, go to clubs or go to bars for a hobby, and they come home to their wife and they're like, "Sorry, honey, I was out drinking and I was at a bar. I don't have to do chores because that was my chore. Good night," and they just go to bed. Like
Goodbye.
it doesn't correlate like that.
Also, what a flex that they can afford to eat out every night and also have a cleaner. I mean, it's not the point of the story, but good for them, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was shocked. It's like, and you guys can have a cleaner for your apartment, and you can go out to eat every night. Are we not living
That's
in a recession
crazy.
right now?
Yeah. What class are you in?
When was this made? 12 years ago? Like,
You don't live in America. It's Sweden or something.
yeah,
this
it's
is
not
an
America.
American story.
It was 2 months ago this was posted, and Reddit did agree, not the asshole, for the final
Yeah.
verdict. But
Were
yeah.
there any top comments or anything? We didn't do that on Preston's story.
Oh, we didn't know.
Totally
Let's see.
forgot. We haven't done one for a while.
One of the top comments with 3.8 thousand upvotes is hobby time and not chore time, not the asshole. I GM'd for 5 years, and it's a lot of prep work, but that's hobby time. That took away from time spent painting miniatures or reading other games. It did not prevent me from cleaning, cooking, etc. Laundry still has to get done. His argument is laughable.
Yes, ma'am.
Um,
Rachel's sister.
Another one with 1.1 thousand upvotes. So I think you've been blissfully happy because of your tendency to just let shit go. You let shit go to the point that now that he has something that involves work is seen as a chore when it is firmly a hobby. Just ask yourself how many times you've bitten your lip, or just put a complaint aside to keep the peace.
Damn.
Damn.
That's
That's a telling.
a good point.
Think on that one.
Yeah. And the last comment I'll read, 679 upvotes. Your husband is being ludicrous and trying to avoid his fair share. Having
Like the word
fun
chores.
games for nearly 40 years, I have never once considered it a household chore. Yes, it requires time and effort, but it's a labor of love for a hobby that I am invested in. It's not the same as washing dishes, mopping floors, scrubbing toilets, which need to be done to maintain a household. Does OP have hobbies? Start treating them like a hobby, or start treating them like hubby treats D&D. See how he reacts. Not the asshole.
Yeah.
Preston, you want to shoot off some from yours since we skipped that?
Yeah, there's no determination on here, but from the overall consensus, it looks like people do agree. Let's see, what's a good one? Okay, yeah. So this one with 239 upvotes. I run homebrew games, and all the examples you gave wouldn't fly at my table. Walk away from the dungeon? Okay. You don't have to get the loot that's inside, and the baddie inside continues their nefarious deeds and probably succeeds at whatever they're trying to do, and the quest givers are disappointed and not interested in giving out rewards or other quests.
Actions have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
It-
I
when
mean,
it comes
another
to
part of
that-
this too. Kill key allies and NPCs. Okay. Your character is branded a murderer, and your reputation precedes you wherever you go. Shopkeepers lock their doors when you roll into town, and good people want nothing to do with you. It's
Yeah.
kind of like too. It's like there
Yeah.
is ways to make it work, but it's also you have to ask yourself if it's worth making it work, and not just
Well,
having a table.
and like this other person isn't the only person I'm playing, I assume. Like there's other people I'm sure playing that want to have a good time and do this module the way it's meant to be played
Yep.
out and see how that story goes, that in taking time away to appease this one random player that just wants to go off and do their own thing. Like that's a waste of time for the
Yeah.
DM and the other players.
Because the
Yeah.
party also gets punished by
Exactly.
being a part with that person. That person's a
Or
criminal.
they can make the choice of saying, hey, you know what, screw you, we don't agree with you, and like kind of banish them from the party. But then now you just have like this weird like animosity in your party. And your
Yep.
players probably didn't want that, but like they had to because of the choices this rando made.
And you
Yeah.
lose a lot when you lose an entire player. Like if they decide to move on with the dungeon and that guy doesn't, then they're outnumbered.
Yeah.
It's not set up correctly anymore.
Nope.
Yep.
It's a balance issue at that point. It's built around how many people are in the party and what they're playing.
Yep.
But yeah, This is some D&D Reddit stories. Hope you guys had fun listening and had some interesting stories here. More to come. But if you want to give us some Reddit stories for us to read that you find on the interwebs, feel free to shoot it down to our email in the link below. We'll take a look at it. We might read it on the next video. Until then, we appreciate you guys for watching Fabled Charisma, and we will see you in the next one. Bye!
Bye.